Have you ever had that feeling, that little voice in your head that just insists everyone, and I mean everyone, is watching you? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that feeling. We're diving into the science of why you feel like you're always on stage, even when you're just, living your life.
Oh, you know the one, that feeling. You've got a tiny coffee stain on your shirt, maybe a bad hair day, and suddenly you're convinced there's a giant flashing neon sign pointing right at you. It feels so incredibly real, doesn't it?
Well, guess what? That feeling actually has a name. It's called the spotlight effect. It's this super common cognitive bias where we think the social spotlight on us is way, way brighter than it actually is. I mean, we're the main character in our own movie, right? So we just assume we're a main character in everyone else's movie too. But spoiler alert, we're not. Okay, so let's get into the proof, because this isn't just a hunch. It's been tested in a pretty unforgettable and kind of hilarious way. So picture this. You're at Cornell University. Psychologists grab a student volunteer and ask them to do something pretty mortifying. They have to put on this t-shirt with a huge picture of Barry Manilow on it. Now, no offense to Barry, but this was not the peak of college cool. Then they had to walk into a room packed with their classmates. You can just imagine the dread. So after this, let's call it a walk of shame. They asked the student, okay, how many people do you think noticed your amazing shirt? Their guess? A whopping 50%. They were sure half the room was staring. But the reality? It's just staggering. In reality, less than 20% of the people even registered it. That gap, the gap between what we think people see and what they actually see, it's huge. And that's the big takeaway here. Even when you are literally trying to be embarrassing, when a situation is designed to draw maximum attention to you, most people are just wrapped up in their own worlds. They're thinking about their own weird hair, what they need to do later, what's for lunch. So if that spotlight isn't really on us, why on earth does it feel so intense, so powerful? Well, the answer is deep in our psychology. It's almost like a glitch in our ancient brain's operating system. And that really is the key question, isn't it? Our feelings are so strong, even when the facts, the data, say they're wrong. And the reason is actually a combo of a simple mental shortcut and some really, really old programming. So first, it starts with something called an egocentric bias. Basically, we only experience the world from our own point of view. We are hyper-aware of every little insecurity, every tiny mistake, every single flaw, and we just project that outwards, assuming it's super obvious to everyone else. But it's not. They're too busy being the stars of their own movie, worrying about their own stuff. And the second piece of the puzzle? Our brains are running on some seriously outdated software. Think about it. For our ancient ancestors, fitting in with the tribe was everything. It was literally life and death. If you got rejected, you were exiled. And exile? Well, that was a death sentence. So our brains evolved to be incredibly sensitive to social judgment. That's why a negative comment on social media today can trigger the exact same ancient alarm bells as the threat of getting kicked out of the tribe thousands of years ago.
All right, now that we know the what and the why, we get to the best part, what we can do with this knowledge. And trust me, this is where things get really, really liberating.
It might sting for a second to realize you're not the center of everyone's universe. But just think about what that actually means. It's not sad. It's not loneliness. It is absolute freedom. That giant, scary spotlight you were so afraid of, turns out you were the one holding it, pointing it at yourself this whole time. And you can just turn it off. This freedom, it just opens up a whole new world. It means you can take that risk. You can ask that quote-unquote stupid question in a meeting. You can start that business you've been dreaming about. You can post that video you've been too nervous to share. Why? Because that crippling fear of failure and judgment, it's almost entirely in your head. If you stumble, if you fail, the vast, vast majority of people will not notice, they won't care, and they certainly won't remember. It makes you think of that classic saying, right? Dance like no one is watching. Well, it turns out that's not just some feel-good quote for a coffee mug. It's a scientifically backed reality. You can dance like no one is watching because, for the most part, they aren't. They're way too busy worrying if their own dancing looks silly. So I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. That harsh, blinding spotlight you thought was on you, it was just an illusion. You're actually standing in this soft, warm, comfortable glow of invisibility. So now that you know you're free, what will you do?